Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. That's right, Gray Hair Dave. That's me. My name's Dave. Got gray hair. I've got a gray beard. I wear glasses like the guy in the artwork. I think he's got more hair than me, but hey, I still got some. Got quite a bit, but it's anyways. It's then and it's slowly departing, I think. But anyways, folks, how are you today? It's a great day down here in good old Central Florida. Going to be in the mid to high 70s today. Yesterday we got some rather unusual rain and thunderstorms that we were talked about yesterday. Yeah, they came. We got some rain, and of course, my job is outside, so I got a little wet. I had a big umbrella, but I now wear boots, not rain boots or anything like that. But I normally wear Skechers, and on days I know it's going to rain, I wear boots so I don't get my feet all wet. Because we all know once your feet get wet, you're wet. It's like yuck. So, anyways, I wanted to thank you all for putting up with the last 2 days, me talking about cancer and family and those types of things. But those are the kinds of things that I want to talk about on this program. And what was important to me. And I'm hoping that it stirs something in you that was important to you. That's my main goal here, folks, is to get you thinking and to get you wanting to know more. Maybe getting to know me a bit, but also getting to know yourselves and getting to know what it is you were and getting to also know what you still have available to give. I think that that's important to be able to still give. Now, whether that's monetarily, which is not exactly what I was really concerned about monetary wise, but what have you got to give back or give to your grandkids or your kids or your husband, your wife, your partner, whoever that may be, besides just everyday living? Does your partner know some of the things you did when you were young? Back when you were in your preteens, back when you were a teenager, before high school. What you did before you met them. I mean, they know some things, but do they know a lot of the things that help determine the person that you are? And I never thought I was a history buff until this morning when I started thinking about the fact that I keep looking up history events on these days that I'm recording about what happened on those days back in whatever year I'm deciding to talk about. And it made me think, what are we talking to our kids or our loved ones about so that they'll know when you're gone? And I hate to say, when you're gone a lot, but as baby boomers, we're getting a little older, and some of these great stories or these personal stories that have never been told can now be told because you're imparting something onto your loved ones. And I think that that's very important. I know it's important for me to find a way to get this out, and that is this podcast. I don't have kids. I was never blessed. I wanted them. I wasn't lucky enough to have them. I have nieces and nephews, and my friend, 2.5, she told me to, leave these for my nieces and nephews, these stories for my nieces and nephews so they knew who their Uncle Dave was. And that makes sense, and it really does, but I'm not, right now I'm not dating anybody. I'm not seeing anybody. Number 2.5, and I chuckle every once in a while when we talk about our exes. She had one ex and I had two. She still doesn't know the names of number one and number two. And I was telling my brother the other day, we were talking on the phone. I said, I had a moment where I couldn't remember number one's name for a second either. It took me a minute or so to go, oh yeah, that was it. Yeah, okay. But, when you get so used to calling an ex number one and number two, it's It just becomes that's their name. It is just, it's the old saying, what's in a name? Well, number one tells me who number one was, number two, and it tells me who number two was. And that's what I wanted to do. But it is, there are certain parts of my life that I don't, I've never divulged to anybody until now. I was talking to number 2.5 a couple of weeks ago, and she says, I listened to your podcast and I learned things about you that I never knew. And we were together for 10 years, she and I. And, these things just don't come up in everyday conversation. But maybe they should, Or are you asking your partner or the person you're with or your loved ones questions about their earlier lives? I mean, I'm not going to just go out there and start divulging stuff to a partner or a girlfriend or something like that if I am not asked. I might say to them, well, hey, I never have liked this or that, You want to go do this tonight or go do that today? I never liked doing that. Well, okay. Not always something that comes up until the occasion arises, but when it arises, do you talk about it? So, and do you ask those questions about what was going on in their lives back when they were kids? My number two, I talk about her a lot because 2.5, I'm sorry. I talk about 2.5 a lot. I talk about 2.5 quite often because we were closer than I believe number one and number two and number 2 3/4 were with me. We connected on a different level because we became best friends, and best friends know a lot more about people than sometimes their spouses, and a lot of times their families. So she knew more, but she was finding out things. She goes, I never knew that about you. I never knew you did that, or never knew that happened, or whatever. So, ask the questions. Don't be afraid. And if you're afraid to ask the question, don't ask it. But you could be missing out on something that might give you an idea as to why somebody acts the way they do sometimes. So, and people do change over time. And this is not the last, but I mean, this is something that I wanted to mention yesterday and I never did get to on cancer. After I had my cancer removed and I recovered, because I was in surgery for 3.5 hours, and because I was told by the doctors that the total effects of anesthesias can sometimes take up to a year to finally, leave your body. After less than a year, I had changed my attitude about a lot of things. And one of the things that changed was my level of understanding about minutia. I don't have time for the little crap, If it's a little tiny problem, fix it, or I don't have the patience to put up with the same old stuff that I never enjoy, but now I'm going to tell you, I don't like that. So with that being said, people do change. They say a zebra never changes its stripes. I believe you do as you get older. What do you think? Have you changed since you've gotten to a certain age in life? Whether you're in your 20s, how have you changed going from your teens into your 20s, and do you notice it? 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s, 40s to 50s, 50s to 60s, 60s to 70s? Have you changed? What changes? Think about that. And don't forget this, folks. Please, please, please. Ask your spouse or your partner or your kids or your parents questions. And they will tell you the stories you probably wouldn't hear if you didn't ask them. The stories I never got to hear because my parents died when I was in my late 20s. But the stories I did hear because I sat with my dad while he'd been drinking a few things sometimes. But we sat and I asked him questions when I was a teenager, we'd sit and he'd tell me stories. The stories he told me were fabulous. The same with my mother. I did the same thing when we went camping. Mom, tell me about your youth. Tell me about when you were young growing up on the farm. If you don't ask, they may never tell you. So ask the questions, folks. That's the message for today. Ask the questions. Don't be afraid. It'll be all right. So, don't forget, folks, go to 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. That's the number 5 Minutes with GrayHairDave.com. Leave me a message. Tell me how you've changed. Nobody leaves me messages. And if you do, I may not be getting them because I check every day and they're not there. So, anyways, tell your friends about my podcast, folks, if you would. 5 Minutes with Gray Hair Dave. I'm everywhere. If they don't know how to use, listen to, or find a podcast, do me a favor and show them, please. So, for Gray Hair Dave, this is Thursday. It's episode number 64. You have a great day. Bye-bye.